So, Julian, what inspired you to get involved in this work for adults with disabilities? I mean, obviously there had to be something to serve as kind of like your muse or your driving force to get involved doing this work. So, what was it for you?
So for me, my drive is my son, my driver, really. Well, I guess my driver's me. But my inspiration is my son, Nickel, who is my third son. I have four sons, ages 18 to 25. Nickel is 20, turning 21. And as he was growing up and we were, having challenges and wondering what life would look like when he was an adult, we that's really what was the inspiration for Main Street. When he was about 14 years old, we really understood the trajectory of what his life was going to look like in the supports that he would need, and we virtually and physically looked around the country to see what was out there, living, social, recreational. What kind of quality and passion and meaning would he have in his adult life? And truthfully, what would that mean for us and the future for my family? And we weren't really inspired by what was out there. It was a little grim, a little disappointed. And so that really set out this quest or this journey, which then became Main Street. At first, we started interviewing, or really informally interviewing, families of course, the self-advocates, people with disabilities and their families, and asking them what life looked like. And I would meet people at coffee shops. I would meet them in restaurants, sometimes in their homes. And I would usually get in the car and start to cry. And, people's lives are hard. There isn't a lot of respite for people out there, for caregivers and families. People are financially strapped. What happens, I don't know if you know this, Elijah, but it's pretty interesting. What happens is when your adult child is 21 years old, they have disabilities, and they have lived with entitlements till they're 21. So the school system is free. There are different programs and services that are open for and paid for and funded by state and local governments. And all of a sudden they reach 21 years old and everything stops. So there isn't, you are now eligible through application for various services, but it's difficult to get and it's difficult to manage, honestly. And it's difficult to find the information, what's out there, and there isn't a lot of support. So all of a sudden, your son or daughter with a disability reaches 21, they're not in school anymore. They lose their anchor. They're a lot of their foundation to community. And so they aren't in school, they aren't in social programs, they aren't receiving therapeutic services. Many of them tend to regress, their skills regress. They feel, according to them, they feel isolated, disconnected, and many of them depressed. And what happens is depression then begets anxiety, and anxiety begets depression. Not only for adults with disabilities, but for their caregivers as well. And people become very isolated. 1 in 3 people in our local community last year had little to no community connection. I'm going to say that again because I think it's so critical. 1 in 3 people last year in this community had little to no community connection, not just the adults with disabilities, but their caregivers as well. It's really lonely, right? And so Main Street will serve this community, this woefully underserved community. So you reach 21 years old and you have a place to belong here. And so does your caregiver. And that's really the beauty of Main Street. It's a place for people to be a part of something bigger than themselves, feel connected to community, continue to learn, a place where you can continue to use your skills, build friendships, and hopefully have a place to live that's affordable and inclusive as well.